Welcome, everyone. We are again once more here to continue our study group, our comments on the book Alert by the Spirit, written by the Spirit Joanna de Angelis through the medium Divaldo Franco. We are on lesson 47 today, as we always like to point out. Each lesson is a topic independent from the other, which means even if you're just joining today, it's not a problem to follow the study group, okay? So we will begin reading a little bit of the message, and then we stop for comments and questions. And for those who have just arrived, I welcome everyone. It's so nice to have you here. So the lesson today is goodness in action. Okay, okay. Do not synchronize with pernicious inductions which derive from troubled and discontented minds. The moral edification of fighters with noble ideals awakens the envy and aggression of those who rejoice in inferior stages of evolution. In service of good work, we will be protected by the positive resources from the action you are developing. A disciplined mind that is also engaged in edifying exercise is nourished by peace and enriched by joy. So let's start talking about this topic today. So the topic is about the practice of goodness, right? The good deeds that we are going to be doing in life. Of course, we have to take into consideration that in order for a person to start engaging oneself in this practice, we are talking about a person that already have so to trail a certain path towards noble emotions, spirituality. And when we say spirituality, we are talking about in the broader sense. We are not talking about a particular religion or philosophy. We are talking about, that inner call that we all have to uh, to do something more, to practice kindness, to be uh, someone that is going to be committed to the general good. So as we can see, in order for us to start engaging ourselves in this kind of actions, it means that we already are looking for something more, that we already have some a different understanding of life. Maybe we do not even consider reincarnation, or we are not even thinking about immortality, but it's something that for the moment with practice we realize that it should be part of all of us, this kind of paying forward, kindness, tolerance, compassion, all of those emotions. But what happened is, imagine yourself start taking the first steps towards this direction. Because this is not still that much considered in our world. Okay, people can say, oh, how nice of you, but I mean, immediately they disconnect with that, which is because it's not necessarily what they are pursuing for themselves. It is only natural that we will find adverse emotions when we are engaging or dedicating ourselves to this kind of practice. First of all, it can be indifference. Then it can be something like, people that do not at all manage to understand why someone is so much worried about others, about the good of the world in selfless actions. But also one thing that we can find that unfortunately can be very common is envy or even aggression or any kind of inferior emotion that any another human being can display towards those that are dedicating to this kind of behavior. And many times it's even harder for us to understand why, if in a way they do not even consider that, they do not want to do that by themselves, why they would be so envious, etc. But the thing is, I always remember the saying that we have here, that misery loves company. People do not feel that happy when someone comes and show them a different pattern, a different paradigm, and show that this is the right way to do things, and you could be much happier doing this kind of things. They want to be or to continue in their way of living, justifying not doing anything different because look around, no one is doing that. And then it comes you and you start doing that, and then you break the paradigm, and people do not feel that much happy with that. But having said all of that and everything that we can face when we are dealing with that, we we have to understand that we will always have protection. All of those that are engaged in the works of goodness, and especially in our case, that we know, we understand about the presence of spirits, about immortality, etc., protecting spirits, we understand that every time that we connect ourselves to this kind of actions, we will be assisted by this group of spirits. But of course, in the last comment, that's why she mentions and she emphasizes the disciplined mind. Because being in face of everything that we are already comment, we may question ourselves sometimes, even in terms of gratitude, because I did good to you and you didn't even say thank you. So you see, and then that can be reason enough for me to say, what's the point? It's no use trying to be good or kind to human beings. They are the way they are, ungrateful and this and that. So it's finding the reason why you do that, and at the same time not allowing the negativity of others, the lack of respect and awareness of others to impact what you already have determined for your life. Okay, I commented a lot about this first slide, so if you would like to.
I have a thing that happened to me the other day. You can hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I was going to I don't remember if it was, I was going to the supermarket, I believe. I was downstairs and I met a friend of mine that lives in the building. We say hello and goodbyes and how are you and that and that. And something was said that what's going on in the world, the difficulties and why, life is so difficult and everything is happening and so much negativity. And I said out of my mind, I just said, we have to keep strong and God is good. So I think the minute I mentioned that, she immediately turned around and said, "Oh, what God?" So I heard the negative out of her, and you have to keep composure and like look and say, okay, what did she just say? But I kept, like you said, you have to have discipline, and what are you going to do? I'm not going to fight with the person. I actually felt sorry for her, and I got myself out of it in a good way. And when we departed and we said goodbye, and I said, have yourself a nice day. But it's just like Joanna de Angelis is saying here, you know, we have to, you know, not be troubled, like she says here, and discontent of people that have negativity, and we could understand. I understand, and in a way, I felt for her, and not get upset. But we have to understand that all these emotions that go around, especially nowadays, there's so much going on in the world. But we have to keep ourselves disciplined and understand that these things are happening, and move on and stay calm, and not get upset. So I understand what Joanna de Angelis is saying here. Keep ourselves focused and alert always.
Mhm.
I was just thinking, Shazad, about the saying, and I think you mentioned that in another session about why do we plant trees. I think there was a parable about that saying, this man who plants all the trees, and then they say, but you're not going to see them. He
Yeah.
said, but I'm going to leave that for the next generation. But I actually had a question because, I actually was talking to someone once about being negative, and I felt the negativity was hitting me. And at one point, I didn't know what else to say, and I felt myself entering into the negativity, and I couldn't pull myself out. And I turned around and I said, you know what? People choose the time to stop suffering. And then I I actually took a step back and I said, I don't know if we can actually choose the time we stop suffering. And I felt that I had let myself go too deep, and I was like, oh my God, am I affected? I mean, is it true? Can we choose the time that we stop suffering and not being affected? Or it's just, it happens and you just have to go with emotions.
Well, I'm going to give you my opinion. Okay, now I cannot say the opinion,
Philip is
because
laughing, so I want to know what he's going to say.
yeah,
I'm so joking.
I cannot say here for the spirits, because we do not have, as far as I know, an answer from the spirits, the higher spirits, for this question. But one thing, because when we talk about spiritism, that we always emphasize in terms of use your common sense. So
Right.
using common sense together with what we have in terms of knowledge and understanding of spiritism and what we can observe, I would say that at this point in time, it is absolutely impossible for us not to suffer, to feel affected, because it is it's very much like when we talk here, and we always have to use these comparisons from the birth of a child till you go through the stages in life, and when you come to a point where you start your adult life, and you realize all your responsibilities, everything that is expected from you in the world, and how the world really revolves, and understanding more about the relationships and all that. So I would say that in terms of spiritual growth, we are more or less on this stage where the only way that I think we could prevent this kind of general suffering, I mean, like you're saying, okay, because I can I can have a fall and break an arm, and it's going to hurt, and I'm going to suffer. I'm not talking about this. I'm not talking about those kind of experiences. But I would say the only way that people would be that much oblivious um, to suffering and not being affected by what is happening in the world is if they are completely indifferent, which means they are very backward in terms of evolvement.
Right.
So the alternative here is, okay, I'm going to be completely different. I couldn't care less. It means that I'm still in stage 0.5 of the 1 to 10, of the 0 to 10 in the scale of spiritual evolvement. We're not. We are already in 1 or 2. And I mean, the more we advance, the more we are going to be impacted by what is happening in the world, by what is happening to others. And I mean, this is how we reach the major goal, which is to have to understand love in a different aspect. I mean, the love that a Jesus can have for us, or that even, not even, we don't even need to go there. But I mean, some noble spirits that have lived here on earth, that have dedicated themselves to, they are not even in the category of Jesus yet. So I mean, with all that, I would say it's absolutely impossible. We may try to hide the dirt behind underneath the carpet, you see, making believe that this is not affecting me, that this is not bad, but at the end of the day, it will come back to us.
Yeah.
Yes, Soraya, you what do you say?
No, it does come back to you, because even if that a quick incident that happened, I felt it the whole day. I kept thinking about it and saying, yeah, gee, I hope she's well, and send her good vibrations. But you continue thinking about that. It just doesn't go away. It got kind of hits you, makes you understand how people are feeling, and being sympathetic toward whatever they do to you.
Yeah. Addressing the commentary from Orlando here, that we need to hear from the spirit and stopping justifying for them. I could say, Orlando, that only from the writings of Kardec, we have about 10,000 pages of lessons from the spirits, only by Allan Kardec, not even considering the Gospels and everything that came before the Spiritist codification. So I think that after we read at least these 10,000 pages, we can say that the spirits are not trying to enlighten us. Just now, I mean, I'm in the process of, working on the translation of a book that I love very much, that is called The Consoler. It's 411 questions and answers. So we will have more also that, but there are so many, and I'm not even touching the other literature and André Luiz and other works from Chico Xavier and Leon Denis, that we already have so many things. The thing is, it is there, and we also have to dig in there. And Joanna de Angelis, for instance, this is what she's trying to tell us here, to enlighten us here in this sense. So let's see the red. Gather your strength in activities you developed. If awareness, exhaustion, or disturbance visits you, the credits for your work will favor you with excellent values, which you will acquire through your trial. Since no one finds themselves treated with exceptions on earth when facing pain, similarly, no one is abandoned at the mercy of aggressions and nonsense of delusional gloating. Only wolves fall in wolves' traps. In other words, if someone suffers the constrictions of negative forces conspiring against good work, it is because they are in sync with them. So here, although all this wording and some very difficult words for us to think about, Joanna de Angelis is actually trying to say, you see, go ahead, find your strength, do not give up, do not change your ways in this path just because you're not seeing the gratification or results like you would like to be seeing, just because it is still being very hard for you, or because you're being criticized, or because pain is still visits you. We know that, it is pain is still part of our planet. Even if like we were saying before, depending on my level of involvement, my life may be marvelous. But if I know that Sonia is suffering, I will be affected by her suffering. If I'm already advancing in my spiritual involvement. Otherwise, I couldn't care less about her, right? But if I am, doing or going in the direction that I want to go, uh, mine can be all good, but I still know that she's suffering. I still know that there are people that needs assistance. I still going to be connected and trying to do something. I'm going to feel affected by all of that. But listen, when we are talking about this, it's not in the sense of getting into a depressive mood. Oh my God, life is horrible. Look how much suffering around. We are not talking about it. We are talking about acknowledging, being aware, and do your share to make it better. And your share may be a simple thing of, grabbing a telephone, and calling this friend, or sending a prayer, a vibration. It doesn't mean to, you being a millionaire and go there and trying to solve the problems of the world. It's very, very simple. And when we are talking about, but and many people do that. Oh, but look, I only do good. I've been dedicating myself so much, but look, see how many things, bad things, still come my way. We have not just lived this incarnation. Thank God we are not aggravating our debts, but we have to understand that somehow here it's unavoidable that some things are going to come our way. And sometimes it's not, I mean, and not sometimes, always, it's not with the objective of punishment, but it's with the objective of teaching us not to conduct ourselves in ways that have brought so much harsh consequences to our lives. Comments, questions? Yes, Sonia?
Yes, and it's different ways to be affected with the other suffering. Then I can see someone suffering and feel sad about that person. And because now I'm more strong, then I can pray, try to help, or something like this. And another way is, as Andrea mentioned, we can see someone with bad feelings and emotions and be involved with your spirit and start to have like bad feelings, bad thoughts, and then that's why I believe she's talking about in this second way. Then don't live the life and the others' disturbance affect your way in the good way. You can see the different when happen with your life.
Yeah. You see, this example that Soraya gave, if she was not like, already firm in her beliefs, she could say, every time I try to do something like that, people scorn me. What's the point, right? Maybe I'm going to reevaluate my choices. It's not because someone is not agreeing with you right now, or understanding you right now, that means that you are the wrong one. we're not saying here let's start criticizing everyone that do not think about like us, because we can be the ones in the wrong way, but we have to think about it. We have to think for ourselves and not just be influenced by others, you know.
Um,
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
no,
because
I was just
many
thinking
times,
what,
okay,
Sorry.
no, go, go. Go, go, go.
Yeah. Someone.
No, I think what Sonia was saying, referring to what I mentioned, is that because I think, like she said here, don't let yourself get involved, right, in the vibration. And in my example, I was trying to say, you know, I did let my guard down, and I all of a sudden I was inside there. But my feeling was to say, you know, complaining about it and letting yourself get involved and not coming out of it, it's a choice at one point. I understand what you were saying, that yes, it's impossible not to feel the pain because we are going through a transition and obviously it is affecting everyone, but also dwelling on it, you know,
Mhm.
how good is that, and how, where do we have a choice to come out of the dwelling and just face it and move on, or accept it and move on, whatever.
Mhm.
It's, I think, for me, that's where the struggle is, you know, like, when do I decide that that's what it is, and move on and accept and still be content and help others and be happy, or turning around and say, come on, you know, like, this is horrible, let's just live in misery, which it's so easy to get it yourself into, I think.
Yeah, it's a very good point you bring, Andrea, because this is one thing that we have tendency to do, and every now and then we comment here. Either we feel ourselves as missionaries, or we don't do nothing about it.
Mhm.
So that's when, you know, when we are facing, when we see those kind of situations, like you say, and seeing that we cannot solve the problem of the world, we try to protect ourselves because it's not going to matter anyway. And I think that the realization that we have to come to is to understand that, first, you understand that this is part of the world, as is part of our lives right now, right? It's part of our individual lives. We all are going through something, I imagine. If you're not, you know, like you, or wait till tomorrow, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But we all are going through something. It may be, you know, because your cholesterol is high, because you know, you have to 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 change your contact lens. Nothing major, but it's something
Mhm,
that
mhm.
is there and disturbs you. So the thing here is for us to reach acceptance, understanding. I mean, this is the level of our planet. We cannot aim in the moment for more. But even if I'm not capable of addressing and fixing all the problems that there is right now, we should be content with what we do. You know, remember that story that I say about the starfishes on the sand that the man is throwing back to the ocean. And the guy says, look at there are so many in this beach, you're never going to save them all. And he says, well, for this one I made a difference. So I think that if we feel that we are doing our share, regardless of how small it is, even if it is just because, you know, 15 minutes of your day, you go down on your knees and you pray for humanity. Okay, you don't need to go down on your knees. I'm just uh, make it more interesting here. You go down on your knees and pray for humanity. You're doing something, and that should be enough for you to feel good about it. Because if everyone do that, we are in a good path, in a path of solution, everyone doing their share. And today, this is what you can do. Tomorrow, maybe you can volunteer 1 hour a week. Next year, it can be that you have resources that you can help an organization. Whatever it is. And I think we should be happy. What does not justify us being oblivious or not doing the little that we can do. And it's in this moment that I think our guilty conscience will say, listen, you are praying just 15 minutes, you could do 20, right? You know that. And this is when we don't feel happy, because we know that we could be doing a little more. But yeah, the idea here, you are absolutely right, is not for us not to allow us to have joy in the world, just focusing on all the miseries that there are. Uh, but it's doing something, doing your share to participate in the elimination of all the pains we see in the world. Sonia, you were going to say something. No, that's okay. Let's see here. Spirit is the spiritual world aware that we suffer because of being incarnated in a physical body. Yeah, I mean, of course they are aware, Orlando, because being a spirit means that they also is going to reincarnate. And this is what it is in the store for them as well. Whether in the same condition as we are, in a lower condition that we are, or in a superior condition in terms of moral evolvement than we are. Of course, like we are always saying, the more we reach this kind of understanding, the more we put us up. We separate us from the negativity or the things that are going to bring negative results for us. The less we will be facing this kind of situations. But it doesn't mean, like I say, I can still come here, my life is just perfect, and it doesn't mean that I'm going to be in perfect bliss, because I see that the life of others are not. And I will put hands on work. I'm not going to be idle because everything is peachy for me. And I'm going to do that, and I'm going to move ahead. Let's go to the next one. Uh, Goodness will not immunize you from your necessary suffering. However, it will help you face difficult situations with robust disposition and trust in God. Goodness will not fill all the empty spots of your soul. However, it will help you avoid saturating yourself with pessimism and bitterness. Goodness will not offer you the plenitude of happiness, but it will enable you to enjoy the foreshadowing satisfactions of the renovation, which will eventually bless you. I love this part, because sometimes this is like we do, right? We think to ourselves, oh, if I do good, I'm going to avoid the bitter cup. Right? Bad things are not going to come my way. And you're right. It will prevent more bad things to come your way. But there are like I said, the consequences of what we did in the past, the commitments that we have today, everything that we agreed before reincarnation to go through, to be lessons to improve us. So if we are still thinking about doing good as a trade bargain with God or whomever, it means that we still have not understand what goodness represent in our lives as immortal spirits. In any case, like she says here, it's not going to immunize us from suffering, fill the empty spots, offer us plenitude of happiness, but it's still it already going to be so much better than before. And then we doubt it. You see, if you think your life is not good now, remove everything that represent goodness and you see how bad it is. That there is this story. I like that the man that lives in a very small house with his family, and the house and it was very difficult because all the people, and then he wants to talk with the priest, and the priest said, well, you live in a small farm, bring your goats to your house and come back next week. And then he said he brought the goats to the house to live together with the family. The following week he goes there and says, it's even worse. The goats are making things much more difficult. And he says, oh, this is because you didn't bring the chicken as well. Bring the chicken to your house. And then another week come back, and yeah, he does that. And then he goes and says, oh, it's even worse. Now it's so noisy and impossible, and the smell and this and that. Bring the dogs. The dogs are going to put everything in place. And then finally, when he goes there another times, he says, remove the goats, remove the chickens, remove the dogs. And come back in a week. And then he comes back and says, oh, my house is a bliss. It's exactly how it was in the first place, right? Sometimes we do not realize until we remove those things that are keeping us in balance from our lives. How many people have actually commenting about how much they even feel not being capable of, meeting their loved ones, embracing them, going to the spirit center, do their routines right now. Before, we took all of that for granted. It was just there. Now we are actually enjoying it. So let's read another one. Goodness will not solve all your problems. However, it will offer you resistance to conquer difficulties and not acquire new negative commitments, which is so important. Goodness will not free you from the fight, which is the path to redemption. Nevertheless, it will become your serenity, supporting you in every situation until you attain happiness. This is a reference to the Simon that was compelled to help Jesus to carry the cross. So here we are talking about the supporting. The goodness you do is a good action that never ceases, always producing more. Don't ever fear evil, nor omit yourself in acting on behalf of goodness. So it's like what Andrea brought to us today, right? You plant the tree. Even if you don't see it grow right now, I mean, you have the certainty that it's going to grow, that it is going to thrive, that it's going to bring shadow and fruits, and that is going to exist. So this is regardless of the inclement weather and all of that, is going to continue, right? Because this is the cycle. So what she's trying to tell us here is, again, regardless your possibilities or what is still happening, Go ahead and keep on doing that. Goodness in action. Comments, questions? So I'll go to the next one. If you find yourself being attacked, maintain a state of graciousness. Reflect on how you would be if you kept yourself in a different band of accomplishment. If in loving and serving you awaken antipathy and animosity in others, consider what you would suffer if you widen the roles of hate. If in fighting for your inner transformation and moral refinement, you will be struck by the violent knocks of evil, examine what and how you would be if you breathed the same climate of alienation of those who objurgate and persecute you. Yeah. So again, it's what we were talking about before. If you think it's bad, imagine how much worse it would be. Okay. There is, I think, a phrase by Chico Xavier that he says, it saddens me when others um, criticize me or do bad things to me. But I would be much sadder if it was me doing that. So nobody's saying it's good or that we will completely dismiss any kind of criticism, envy, antipathy, animosity that we may rise in people because we are trying to get better. But the alternative would be to be in the same position as they are. And we know already enough not to want to remain there. Even if we are still not that much advanced, but we are, baby steps moving forward. And what we cannot do now is go backwards or just stagnate because there are people that do not appreciate that. If history can teach us one thing, this is it. Let's look at at the life of so many that went through so much struggles and criticism in the fields of science. For instance, you're crazy working with electricity. You're crazy saying that there are small animals that can contaminate you. You're crazy thinking about a washing machine. Why? We don't have enough water. You're crazy thinking about the world reform. So in each and every field of life, we don't need to just to focus on the religious aspect of it, because we could talk about everything that Jesus went through, that Moses went through, that St. Francis went through, that Mother Teresa went through, and so many others. And now they are revered by humanity. Right? So yeah, we trying to live ahead of our times. And the ones that are going to benefit from that right now is you. And this should be enough to motivate us to continue in this path. Any comments, questions so far? Okay, let's go to that last one. Even Jesus, who was blameless and is the light of the world, did not pass amongst us unharmed by the aggression of mirthless incarnates who threatened him, in vain attempting to scare him. The last inspiring the first to crucify him, forgetting that death is life, and by dying, he returned in radiant dawn of hope to never be parted from us. So, yeah, we're not there yet, but this is our goal, right? Any more comments, questions?
It really offers us a lot of hope, that last one.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, and I think, Marlene, that one thing that we have to take into consideration here, we really are talking about emotions. They are so positive for us. Even if we still have to deal with the negative around, the more we are capable of already bringing to our lives, to our day-to-day experiences, those kind of good emotions, like you said, hope, optimism, all of this is what really matters at the end of the day, right? And the more we are capable of hanging on those good emotions, the more we will have the strength to deal with the negative when it comes. And even sometimes, when we think about the times that we have engaged into altercations with people that led us to nothing, just a, a bad taste in your mouth later on, at least that, right? Now, with this new perspective and understanding, next time you see yourself in a similar situation, you have reason enough to try to prevent yourself to go into this way, or at least to minimize something that before we would not even be considering separating ourselves from. And this is why and how we can achieve inner peace. Right? We can see when we see people that already nourish and value those kind of emotions, they have a more peaceful feature, even before the problems that they may face. They are nice people to be around. They have always have a kind word to you, a smile, you know. And so we look at them and say, I want to be like this person. I want to reach this kind of calmness that is not indifference, that is not saying, I don't suffer or nothing bad comes my way. But it means I understand, I accept, and I still have hope and will continue with that. Because from hearing, it can only get better. Worst